Steve, can I get you to cross over the line real quick for me? I need you to make it over the line. Thank you. Hey, Mason. I don't have Steve. All right. We got the technical difficulties cleared up. We'll get us lined up here real quick. Starting lineup is going to be Kermit Butts, Daryl, Brad, Jason, Matthew, Steve, Coleman, and Mason McCombs in the back. All right, guys, we're going to make it across the finish line to start. All right, the starting lineup is going to be Kermit Butts, Daryl, Brad, Jason Wagner, Matthew, Steve, Coleman, and Mason McCombs. Looking like we already got ourselves a nice little battle for first, second, and third. You got Kermit, Jason Wagner, Mason McCombs, David Coleman in fourth, Matthew in fifth, Steve in sixth, Brad in seventh, and Daryl back in eighth. Kermit coming out with that heater of a 5.88. Oh, caution, backside, backside. Got Kermit out in front on a 44.03. Jason right behind him with a 39.404. Caution, caution. Oh boy, that's going to square everything up. Kermit figured out how to stay out of the traffic because he's still out in first. Got Mason right behind him. Jason, oh, caution front, go. There, we got 2 minutes, minute and a half left, minute left. All right. Got Kermit out in front on a 44.03. Mason McCombs right behind him with a 38.401. Jason Wagner with a 38.403. Coleman with a 36.403. That's Steve with a 35.403. Matthew with a 33.402. Brad back there with a 34.04. And Daryl with a 25.4 flat. Oh. Oh, caution, caution. Up on two wheels right there, I see. Right, just under a minute left. You got Kermit still out in front. Mason knocking at the door. Jason right behind him. Coleman back there in fourth. Steve in fifth. Matthew in sixth. Brad in seventh. And Daryl in eighth. Caution, caution. Keep on going until you cross that line. Daryl, Matt. All right, finishing lineup. All done, all done. Finishing lineup. Kermit with a... Finishing lineup, Kermit with a 44.03, Mason McCombs with a 38.4 flat, Jason Wagner with a 37.401, David Coleman with a 37.402, Matthew with a 32.401, Steve with a 32.405, Brad with a 31.403, and Daryl with a 24.4 flat. All right, next up is Sportsman, Ava, Randy, and Ron Dolan. Guys, got 2 minutes to turn and burn.
All right, boys and girls, you have a minute on the clock for hot laps if you need it. Welcome our live stream viewers tuning in. Got Mr. Stroman all the way from South Carolina tuning in from another race. Looks like our drivers are ready to go. Marshals are in position. Thank you all. Miss Ava is going to lead us off, followed by Randy Werstein and Ron Dolan. All right, one more time, drivers. Here we go. And we're off and running with your Sportsman class. All right, Randy down to a 7.2. Ava has a slightly faster 7.2 for the fast lap of the race, and Mr. Ron down to a 10.4. Caution in 4, stay low through 4 drivers. Great crowd on hand, stopping by to watch or race. And Ron gonna monster truck it out of the infield. Great job. $115 down, 2:45 to go. It's Ava showing the way on a 32-lap run in that Losi sprint. Randy rocking a short course. Assuming that's the same one you're running later, Scott. Ron, stop taking my cones out. All right, just about halfway, drivers. Up next, Traxxas Modified. Gonna be AJ, David Ponder, Quanstrom, Coleman, Rains, and Hammond. $30 down, 1:30 to go. Ron down to 8.3 now. Starting to get the hang of it. Sometimes you just got to shake that rust off from week to week, especially when you're new and learning. Had all day practice yesterday for the oval here doors at New Red Hobbies for today's race. Saw a couple guys here. It's good to see some of them. Expected to see some others here, but got scared, I guess. All right, Randy down to a 6.92 fast lap in that short course late model. Randy on a 31 lap pace, Ava on a 28, Ron on a 20. Caution on front straight, go high on the front straight, high to the wall. And looks like there hopefully might be a small problem on that one. Ten seconds to go. Are going to need a couple of volunteers to help out with this next race. That is the race clock. Drivers, keep racing, keep racing. I'll let you know when you're done. Miss Ava is done. And shut it down. Everybody's done. Ava going to hold on to take that one. 27.401. Randy with 27.407. And Mr. Ron with 20.402. Everybody finished the race. That's the important part. All right, Traxxas Modified. Let's get him down, and I'll have you checking in just a moment as soon as the track clears up here. David TQ and the Marshall in on that one. All right, I need a check-in from Ponder, Deacon, and Coleman. And I think we had another transponder out there I'm looking for. At least one more marshal down here at the south end of the track. Help out Miss Ava. Need one marshal out here to help us out. Daryl, are you going to be okay out there? Thank you, sir. Daryl, are you going to be all right out there? Mr. Terry's coming out. Thank you, sir. All right, drivers. Let's bring them up to speed. You got 75 seconds to turn and burn. Man, where's our chicken dinner winner? He should be out here defending his title today. Guessing he's scared. Probably had to go find some new tires after running on the same set for a year. I don't know how he made those foams last, but I guess he did, so. All right, looks like our racers are ready to rock and roll. Order is AJ, Dave Ponder, Deacon, Dave Coleman, Mike Raines, Andrew Hammond. Here we go. And we're off and running. Uh-oh. False start, guys. False start. I gotta fix some settings here. Whoopsie daisy. All right, guys, check them in one more time. Just roll them off in order. Sorry about that. Still have the settings from last week's race. And gonna be AJ, David Ponder, Deacon, Coleman, Raines, Hammond. Here we go. And now we're off and rocking. Sorry about that. Oh, caution on the front straight. Split the middle, split the middle, split the middle. Go low, inside, inside. We get somebody out there to help out Mr. Dave. Go low in the front, inside, inside, to the pipe, to the pipe. We're clear. "45 seconds down, 3:14 to go. It's AJ, Coleman, Deacon, Raines, Hammond, Ponder at the line. Caution out of two, caution in two. And I think we're clear. Caution in three, go high into three, high into three. And we're clear. Get it up, guys. Caution in 2. Halfway, drivers, just halfway. Got Tommy tuning in online. Thank you for tuning in, sir. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Buggy late model, you're up next. That's race number 4. Totaling Jumlinland, Bass, and Dean. Fast lap, Strickland at 6.4, Deacon 6.6, Andrew 6.5, Coleman 6.6, Rain 7.0, Ponder 6.6. "45 seconds ago, it's AJ, Deacon, Andrew, Coleman, Rains, Ponder. A couple close battles between Strickland and Deacon, and then Andrew and Dave Coleman about a second and a half apart. Rains and Ponder back 4 seconds between those two. Five seconds. That is time. Drivers, keep going, keep going. AJ, Andrew, you guys are done. Looking for Coleman and Ponder and shut it down. AJ setting the early TQ 35.401. Quanstrom back 1.9 seconds with a 403. Hammond and Coleman with 34 laps. Ponder with 33 and Rains with 32. All right, boys and girls, I need a couple more marshals out here. We can turn these guys loose. Should have plenty out there for them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 able-bodied guys. We got 2 out there right now. And I need my marshals from that last race. Come on down. Thank you, Mr. Andrew. All right, drivers, bring them up to speed. You got a minute 15. All right, boys and girls, the order is Steve, Garrett, Casey, and Brian. Roll them off. And here we go. Whoa, up on two wheels. Stay low off of two. Low off of two. Stay high off of four. And we're clear. Caution in four. Stay low through four. At the line after 40 seconds is Brian Dean rocking a 43-lap run. Got the black nose, black spoiler, white body with the flame job on it. Casey Bass in second by 9/10. Off turn four, right behind Brian here, about 20 feet. On two wheels in middle of 3 and 4. Fast laps so far. Brian Dean 5.51, Casey 5.59, Garrick 5.57, Hodling 5.87. .130 down, 2:30 to go. Casey stealing a new fast lap, 5.44. Brian Dean with a 5.45. Oh, Casey up on two wheels, entering turn 3. Halfway, drivers, halfway. 43-lap run going for Brian Dean. Casey's got to find a little more to get on that 43-lap pace here. He's back 3.7 at the line. And it looks like Hodling is pulled off. Let's see what happens there. Brian Dean rocking an X-ray, if I'm not mistaken. Caution out of 4. Stay high off of 4. High off of 4. Casey rocking an Associated. Garrick, I believe, is running Associated. .110 to go. Losi sprints. You're up next. A Vogel. Frozen. Quintel. Hammond. .50 seconds to go. Your leader. Coming off turn 4. .10 seconds. Brian and Casey separated by 5.6 at the line here. Casey trying not to get lapped here. That is time. Keep going. Eric's done. Casey's done. Everybody's done. Shut it down. Brian Dean taking that one 43.403. Casey with 42. Garrick with 40. Fast lap going to Casey Bass 5.442.
Waiting on another marshal. I'll let you guys loose, turn and burn. So. Burn. Guys, got a couple minutes on the clock, turn and burn. All right, gentlemen, your starting lineup for this one right here is going to be Andrew, Matt, Steve, and Scott. We're off. All right, we got Quintel out in front, Andrew behind him, Steve in third, Vogel back and forth. Andrew still with the fastest lap though of a 6:08. Caution, caution to it. 3 and 4, caution. Scott out in front, Andrew right behind him, Steve in third, Vogel back and fourth. Got Quintel on a 39.406 lap pace, Andrew behind him with a 37.401, Vogel with a 31.401, and Steve with a 31.402. Left, 2 minutes left. Vogel just took the fastest lap with a 6:01. Quintel still hanging on the first though. Andrew right behind him in second. Vogel in third. Steve in fourth. Minute left, 1 minute left. Scott Quintel still out in front. Andrew right behind him. Vogel in third and Steve fourth. Quintel putting down a heater of a 5.94. Get some. Quintel on a 39.403. Hammond on a 38.403. Vogel on a 34.401. And Steve on a 34.406. Boys are wheeling it tonight. Oh, caution 3 and 4, caution 3 and 4, go high, go high. Race is over when you cross the line. Matt, Andrew, Steve, waiting for Scott. All are done. Final lineup on that one. Scott, Andrew, Matt, and Steve. Quintel with a 39.404. Andrew with a 38.403. Vogel with a 34.401. Steve with a 33.401. Up next, we got short course late model. And for David Coleman, David Ponder, Steve Holden, Scott Werstein. All right, your starting lineup for this one is going to be Coleman, Ponder, Holtland, and Werstein. Huh? Oh, guys, I'm waiting on turn marshals, dear God. Waiting on marshals. guys. Sorry about that, guys. Refresher on the lineup is going to be David Coleman, David Ponder, Steve, and Scott. Caution. David Ponder out in front. Steve Holton right behind him with the fastest lap. Oh, no, David Ponder just took the fastest lap with a 5.81. Steve right behind him. Scott in third, and David back in fourth. Steve coming back with that fastest lap of a 5.75. Now he's taking over first place. We've got Coleman right behind him, Ponder back in third, and Scott back in fourth. Steve on a 44.05, David Coleman on a 37.401, David Ponder on a 37.402, and Scott on a 36.401. That's a new fastest lap. Oh, caution, 3 and 4. That cleaned itself up nicely. Right there, 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Steve still out in front. David right behind him. Ponder, Coleman in third, and Scott back and forth. Got Steve on a 39.4 flat. Ponder on a 37.4 flat. Coleman on a 37.405, and Scott on a 36.401. Oh, caution, 2 and 3. Right, still got Steve out in front, Ponder in second, Coleman in third, Scott in fourth. Just under 30 seconds left. Got Steve on a 44.05, Ponder on a 37.401, Coleman on a 37.405, and Scott on a 36.4 flat. Steve's still holding on to that fastest lap of that 5.75. All right. Cross the line, you were done. David, Scott, Coleman, Steve, you are done. Finishing lineup, Steve Holding, David Ponder, David Coleman, and Scott. Steve on a 4405 flat. David Ponder on a 37.4 flat. Coleman with a 37.404, and Scott with a 36.401. Up next is going to be Mud Boss 12 turn, Deacon, Darrow, Levi, and Michael Rain. Waiting on our turn, marshals. Guys can spin a couple laps, turn the burn time in, but I still need a couple marshals for the center. You could race, you can chase. All right, your starting lineup for this one is going to be Deacon, Darrow, Levi, and Mike. Caution. All right, you got Deacon out in front with the fastest lap of a 6.45. Mike Rain's right behind him. Levi in third, Darrell in fourth. Getting crazy out there. Deacon out in front, Mike Rains in second, Levi in third, Darrell in fourth. Deacon on a 36.406. Mike Rains on a 32.401. Levi on a 31.4 flat. Daryl on a 28.404. Just gonna spray more sealer on it. Give me time. Two minutes left. Still got Deacon out in first. Mike Rains right behind him. Levi in third and Daryl in fourth. Deacon still holding on to that fastest lap of the 6.45. Oh, caution, caution. Get him turned around, please. Caution 3 and 4, caution 3 and 4. One minute left. Deacon still out in front. Mike Rains right behind him. Levi in third. Daryl back in fourth. Got Deacon on a 35.403. Mike Rains on a 33.4 flat. Levi on a 33.406. And Daryl on a 27.405. Just under 30 seconds to go. All right, race it out, race it out. Deacon, you are done. Levi and Mike. Finishing lineup for that one is going to be Deacon, Mike Rains, Levi Strickland, and Daryl Traveler. Finishing lineup on that is going to be Deacon with a 35.403, Rains with a 34.406, Levi with a 33.404, and Daryl with a 27.406. Round 2 will be starting at 7:30. Sorry about that, guys. I had some technical questions. Need to get some marshals out there. Need at least somebody at the far end. One more person on the side, and at least somebody on this outside corner. Is Daryl in this one? Daryl in this one? I need some marshals also. I need at least 2 or 3 more marshals out here. You can race. You can chase. Looking for at least one more marshal. Come on now. Like at least a minimum of 4. We got 4 out there? All right. I'll give you guys a little bit turn and burn before we start it off if you want it. Once you guys are all comfortable, we'll get ourselves lined up. You got Kermit Butts, Mason McCombs, is going to be Jason Wagner, David Coleman, Matthew DeReeves, Steve, Brad, and Daryl. Daryl don't look like he's in. Guys want to hear the lineup one more time? Lineup is going to be Kermit Butts, Mason McCombs, Jason Wagner, David Coleman, Matthew, Steve, and Brad. Come on, man. Space it up. Space it up. Got to be civilized about this. Oh, guys, we ain't started yet. Lineup: Kermit, Mason McCombs, Jason Wagner, David Coleman, Matthew, Steve, Brad. All right. Jesus. Oh. Caution front straight, caution front straight. Caution back corner. Caution front. All right, you got Kermit out in front. Mason McCombs right behind him. David Coleman, Jason Wagner, Brad, Daryl, Matthew. Kermit out there with the fastest slap of a 5.86. Somehow he stayed clear of the carnage. Oh, caution, caution, go high, go high. Jesus, we got a kerfluffle. All right, caution on the back straight. Up, go. Caution. Pandemonium. Kermit's still out in front. David Coleman right behind him. Mason in third. Wagner in fourth. Steve in fifth. Brad in sixth. And Daryl in seventh. Matthew back in eighth. Caution, back corner, back corner. Two minutes left. You heard it. Still got Kermit out in front. He's on a 44.04. David Coleman right behind him with a 39.40. Caution. Pandemonium on the back stretch, guys. Go high. If I can, oh dear God. Caution, back straight. Oh my God, caution. Caution, turn. Oh, go low. One minute left. Kermit out in front. David Coleman right behind him. Mason in third. Wagner in fourth. Brad in fifth. Steve in sixth. Matthew in seventh. And Daryl in eighth. Caution, go high. 30 seconds left. You still got Kermit out in front, David Coleman in second, Mason McCombs in third, Jason Wagner in fourth, Brad in fifth, Steve in sixth, Matthew in seventh, and Daryl in eighth. Kermit on a 39.4 flat, Coleman on a 38.401, Mason McCombs on a 38.402, Wagner on a 34.40 flat, Brad on a 31.406, Steve on a 34.04, Matthew on a 28.403. That's the end. When you cross the line, when I call your name, you are done. Kermit, Dave, Mason. Waiting on Daryl, and we are done. Wow, that was a barn burner. Kermit out in front, David Coleman right behind him in second, Mason McCombs in third, Jason Wagner in fourth, Brad in fifth, Steve in sixth, Matthew in seventh, and Daryl in eighth. All right, up next, we got Sportsman. Thank you, marshals, for coming on out. Feel free to turn and burn. if you all ready, starting lineup on this one is going to be Ava, Randy, and Ron. Absolute pandemonium there for a second. Oh, caution. Ava with a fast lap. 7-3. Soonly taken by Randy with a 6.88 in second. On back in third. Oh. Randy out in front right now. Put down a fastest lap of a 6.81. Ava back in second. Ron in third. Randy on a 29.405. Ava on a 28.406. And Ron on a 24. Caution back. All right, Ava just took over first place. Randy right behind her. Ron back in third. Oh, caution for it. Now we got Ava out in front on a 34.03 lap pace. Somebody going straight Gravedigger out there. One minute left. 1 minute left. Ava out in front. Randy in second. Ron in third. Randy still got that fastest lap of a 6.45. Oh, man. Somebody just pulled the wedge car on him. Caution, go low, go low. Uh-oh. Ramped him again. All right, just under 30 seconds left. Ava out in front. Randy in second. Ron in third. All right, we're there. All right, when you cross the line, you are done. Ava done. Randy done. Waiting for Ron. Finishing lineup on that would be Ava with a 31.406, Randy with a 28.405, and Ron with a 19.409. All right, up next, short course modified. We're going to definitely need ourselves some volunteer marshals on this one. Jason, you just pulling memento out of the jump? I'm waiting on a transponder back. Our marshal guys are free turn and burn, get some laps in. All right. Your starting lineup for this one is going to be AJ, Deacon, Andrew, David Coleman, David Ponder, and Mike Raines. Nice clean start, guys. Nice. Oop, I spoke too soon. AJ out in front, laying down of a heater of a 6.62. Mike Raines right behind him. Deacon in third. David Coleman in fourth. Andrew in fifth. And David Ponder in sixth. Happened on the backside there. Oop. All right, good race. And AJ out front just got another fast lap of a 6.38. Deacon right behind him. Ponder in third. Andrew in fourth. David Coleman in fifth. And Mike Raines in sixth. Oop, caution back straight, caution back straight. Keep your. Oop. Good footwork, guys. Good marshalling, good marshalling. That switched things up a little bit. We got David Ponder out in front now. Andrew in second. Deacon in third. AJ in fourth. Coleman in fifth. Rains in sixth. Let's see if AJ can't work his way back up to the front of the pack. He's still holding on to that fastest lap. A 6.38. Oh, caution 3 and 4. Left, 2 minutes left. Still got Ponder out front, Andrew right behind him, Deacon in third, AJ in fourth, David Coleman in fifth, Mike Raines in sixth. Ponder on a 35.44 flat, Andrew on a 35.404, Deacon on a 34.401, AJ on a 34.404, David Coleman on a 32.402, Mike Raines on a 31.4 flat. Oh, gonna close that gap right there. Somebody stuck in the pipe. Oop. Minute left, 1 minute left. Oh, Andrew just took over first place. David in second, Deacon in third, AJ back in fourth, Mike Raines in fifth, David Coleman in sixth. Right, just under 10 seconds left. David Ponder out in first, Andrew behind him, Deacon in third, AJ in fourth, Mike Raines in fifth, and David Coleman in sixth. Oh, caution front straight, caution front straight. You crossed the line, you were done, AJ. Deacon. Andrew. Mike Raines. Waiting on David Coleman and Ponder. Boy, somebody detour, huh? All right, up next, Buggy late model. We need ourselves at least 4 marshals to start. Turn and burn. You ain't racing for God's sake. You guys are getting. When you gentlemen are ready, the starting lineup on this one is going to be Brian Dean, Casey Bass, Garrett, and Steve. Guys ready to line them up? All right. All right, Brian Dean out in front, Garrett in second, Casey Bass in third, Steve Holton in fourth. Brian Dean with a fast lap of a 5.48. Brian Land down in 5.44 for their fast lap out in front. Casey Bass in second, Garrett in third, Steve Holden in fourth. Brian Dean on a 43.403. Casey Bass on a 42.401. Garrett on a 42.405. Steve on a 39.4 flat. About to see the race here, I tell you. Minutes left, 2 minutes left. Brian Dean out on front. Casey Bass right behind him. Garrett in third. Brian Dean on a 43.403. Casey Bass on a 43.404. And Garrett on a 41.4 flat. Hold on to it. And if you can't track him down, Brian Dean out in front, Casey Bass in second, Garrett in third. Brian got himself on a 43.403. Casey Bass on a 42.4 flat. Garrett on a 41.402. Taking it to the wall on that one. Brian out in front, Casey right behind him, Garrett in third. Dean on a 43.403, Casey on a 42.402, and Garrett on a 41.402. All right, when you cross the line, it is over. It is over. Casey, Garrett, Brian. Finishing lineup on that one is going to be Brian, Casey, and Garrett. Brian with a 43.404. Casey Bass with a 42.402, and Garrett with a 41.402. Good racing. All right, up next, Losi Sprint. Red light is on, no marshals, no laps. Waiting on our marshals. Thank you, gentlemen. Once they're clear of the path of destruction, I'll let you guys get going. Burn and burn. All right, when you gentlemen are ready, the starting lineup on this one is going to be Scott Quintel, Andrew Hammond, Matt Vogel, and Steve. Quintel coming out swinging with the fastest lap of a 6:08. out in front. Andrew Hammond right behind him. Matt Vogel in third and Steve in fourth. Hammond coming back with a fast lap of a 6:07. Then Quintel comes back with a 5:94. Quintel out in front. Hammond in second. Vogel in third. Steve in fourth. Oh, we got Pandemonium. Go high, go high. Low. Sorry, dear God. Caution, caution, caution. Go high, go high, go high. Quintel and Vogel going back and forth with second. Hammond back in third and Steve in fourth. Quintel's still out there with a fast lap of a 5:94. Oh, Pandemonium on the back straightaway. All right, little change up. Matt Vogel out in front. Scott Quintel in second. Andrew Hammond in third. And Steve in fourth. Vogel on a 38.406. Scott Quintel on a 38.406. Andrew Hammond on a 36.406. And Steve on a 33.405. Two minutes left. Matt still out in front. Just switched up with Scott. Scott out in front. Matt behind him. Andrew in third. Steve in fourth. Nice little battle for first and second going on. Right, Scott back out in front with that unanswered fastest lap of the 5:94. Matt right behind him in second. Andrew Hammond in third. And Steve in fourth. Quintel on a 38.401. Matt on a 38.403. Andrew on a 35.401. And Steve on a 34.405. Seconds to go. Scott still out in front. Matt right behind him. Andrew Hammond in third and Steve in fourth. Quintel beating his fastest lap. That is over. It is over. You crossed the line. You were done. Matt, Andrew, Scott, Steve. You guys are done. You guys are done. Finishing lineup for that one is going to be Scott Quintel with a 38.404. Matt Vogel in second with a 37.4 flat. Andrew Hammond with a 35.401 and Steve with a 34.405. Quintel got himself a fastest lap at the end of that with a 5.92. All right, up next is going to be short course late model. Turn to burn. Laps in.
All right, choir boys, Hodling making this one or no? You guys get your hot laps? All right, 2 laps, Hodling, 2 laps. Mr. Sticks had to see a man about a horse, so he'll be back in a few minutes. That is a pretty new body. Let's hopefully it stays that way. All right, boys and girls, Hodling, currently the TQ, 40 laps. 4:05 going to lead us off here, followed by Ponder, Coleman, and Werstein. Mr. Scott out there with his Slash Street Stock. Finally got that late model body on it, and, well, we know it's pretty fast. He beat the guys last time he ran. One more time, guys, one more time. Double checking those transponders. All right, gentlemen, 4 minutes on the clock. Here we go. Just about 30 seconds into this one. One more lap here and go in that race order. At the line, it is Hodling by a lap. Oh, make that a little bit over Coleman. Make that 3 seconds over Werstein now. Coleman back less than a tenth and third, and Ponder behind him by 3.5. Mr. Ponder might somehow missed a lap. We got good strength there. Up on 2 wheels he goes, that gold body. Caution in 2, and we're clear. Check up, guys. 140 down, 220 to go. Up next, Mud Boss 12 turn start heading this way. That's going to be Deacon, Daryl, Levi, and Mike. Rocking a 41 lap. Pace Steve Hodling on a new TQ. Got that pretty body. Got some green, pink, and blue on it. Coleman in second in his patented fluorescent green with a checkered board hood on it. Werstein rocking white, black, and green lettering on the side, if I'm not mistaken. Up on 2 wheels, 3 and 4. Ponder with a fast lap, 5.71. Burstein 618, Coleman 610, Hodling 572. You heard it there. Uno momento. Hodling over Coleman by 2 laps right meow. And Ponder with some couple long laps throughout the race here. I have a feeling, not a strength issue, I have a feeling he might have his transponder plugged in backwards and it's intermittent. Pick him up there. Caution in 1, caution in 1. Got a frayed wire or something going on. That is time, drivers. Race it out, race it out. And shut it down. Hodling going to take that one, setting a new TQ. 41,404. Coleman with 38. Werstein 36. Ponder 35, but I know he's got a couple extras there. I don't think it's going to change anything. So, all right, boys and girls. Those cars down, out the track to mark. Drivers, check them in and park it. All right, we got 2 of our guys out there. We're going to turn you guys loose. Mr. Mike's going to call this one. I got to go finish some changes on my car for the mains.
Waiting on a check-in from Levi. Can I get you to run over the line one more time for me? Thank you. All right, your starting lineup for this one right here is going to be Deacon, Mike, Levi, and Daryl. All right, Levi out in front, Mike Raines in second, Deacon third, Daryl in fourth. Mike Raines out in front with the fast lap of the 6.95. Levi right behind him, Deacon in third, and Daryl in fourth. Mike Raines out in front, just put down the heater, the 6.75. Levi right behind him with Deacon in third and Daryl in fourth. Mike Raines on a 35.405, Levi on a 34.406, Deacon on a 33.406, and Daryl on a 28.4 flat. Switching the system, or Daryl just putting down the heater because he just put down a fast lap of a 6.37. Whoop somebody's gravedigger in the center. Oh, one more. Right, Mike Raines still out in front. Deacon second, Levi in third, Daryl in fourth. Minutes left, 2 minutes left. Mike Raines out in front, Deacon right behind him, Levi coming up in third, Daryl in fourth. Mr. Raines out in front with a 34.403. Deacon right behind him with a 33.4 flat. Levi with a 32.402. Daryl with a 27.404. Oh, pandemonium in the corner. 1 minute left, 1 minute left. Mike Raines still holding on to the front position with Deacon right behind him and Levi in third. See if he can chase him down. Mike Raines still out in front. Deacon second. Levi in third place. Keep on going. You cross the line, you are done, Mike. Deacon. Levi. Finishing lineup for that one right there is going to be Mike Raines, Deacon, and Levi. Mike Raines with a 34.403, Deacon with a 34.406, and Levi with a 33.410. All right, 20-minute break. 20-minute break. Mains will start at 8:50.
All right, boys and girls, just about time for the mains. Mr. Sticks is blowing the track off here, and we're going to get into it. So, Ocala Bomber, you guys need to start heading this way. Marshals will be 12 turn plus some volunteers.
Right, when you gentlemen are ready, the starting lineup on this one is going to be Kermit Butts, Jason McCombs, David Coleman, Jason Wagner, Matthew DeReeves, Steve, Brad, and Daryl. Are off. Caution on the front straight, caution on the front straight. Caution on turns 1 and 2, 1 and 2. All right, Jason Wagner out in front, Mason in second, Kermit third, Coleman fourth, Steve fifth, Brad in sixth, Daryl in seventh, and Matthew in eighth. Coleman out there with a fast lap of a 5.92. 3 minutes left. Jason Wagner out in front. Oh, caution, caution. Turns 3 and 4. Mason McCombs out in front now. Kermit second. Coleman third. Jason Wagner fourth. Steve in fifth. Brad in sixth. Daryl in seventh. Matthew is out. Coleman with the fastest lap of a 5.82 right now. Watch out on the back straight. Watch out on the back straight. All right. Caution 3 and 4. Caution 3 and 4. Mm-hmm. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. Kermit out in front. Mason right behind him. Coleman in third. Wagner in fourth. Steve in fifth. Brad in sixth. Daryl in seventh. Kermit with a 38.402. Mason McCombs with a 38.404. David Coleman with a 38.404. Wagner with a 35.403. Steve with a 33.403. Brad with a 32.406. And Daryl with a 28.408. Caution, caution, 3 and 4. Caution back straight, caution on the back straight. 1 minute left, 1 minute left. You heard it there. Kermit out in front. David Coleman in second, Mason in third. Steve in fourth, Brad in fifth, Jason in All right, guys, we got ourselves a race. Kermit out in front, Mason knocking on the door, Coleman right behind him, Steve in fourth, Brad in fifth, Daryl in sixth. Kermit on a 38.4 flat, Mason on a 37.4 flat, Coleman behind him with a 37.404. Steve with a 33.401, Brad with a 31.4 flat. When you cross the line, it is over, it is over. You are done, you are done. Dear God, that was a race. Finishing lineup on that one is going to be Kermit Butts, Mason McCombs, David Coleman, Steve, Brad, and Daryl. Kermit Butts with a 38.4 flat, Mason McCombs with a 37.402, David Coleman with a 37.403, Steve with a 33.401, Brad with a 31.4 flat, and Daryl with a 28.405. All right, up next is RTR Sportsman. Main. We got Ava, Randy, and Ron. soon as our marshals are free to clear their driving lane, feel free to turn and burn. If you are ready, the starting lineup is going to be Ava, Randy, and Ron. Tighten it up a little bit. All right, out in front, we got Randy, Ava right behind him, Ron back in third. Oh, pandemonium in the back straight. Now that shake things up. Randy's still out in front. Ava second. Ron in third. Uh-oh. Oh, caution on the front straight. Caution on the front straight. All right, we got Randy out in front. Got himself on a 34.407. Ava right behind him with a 31.4 flat. And Ron with a 19.406. All right, we got Randy out in front on a 33.404. Ava behind him on a 31.403. And Ron on a 24.04. Ava and Ron both got their new fast lap on this layout. Got himself. Just under a minute left to go. Got Randy still out in front. Ava right behind him. Oh, caution on the front straight. Caution on the front straight. Boy. Oh, caution on 3 and 4. All right, 10 seconds left to go. Got Randy out in front, Ava in second, Ron in third. You cross that line, you are done. Randy, Ava, and Ron. All right, finishing lineup on that one right there is going to be Randy, Ava, and Ron. Randy with a 32.401, Ava with a 31.402, and Ron with a 19.407. Up next, we got short course modified, A main. For AJ Strickland, Deacon, Andrew Hammond, David Ponder, David Coleman, and Michael Rain. Let everybody know, last call on the hobby shop, last call on the hobby shop. Waiting on a couple more marshals, please. Are the drivers comfortable with the pit marshal situation? Can we get ourselves one more body out on the track, please, and thank you. And the crowd goes wild. All right, your starting lineup on this one is going to be AJ, Deacon, Andrew, Ponder, Coleman, Rains. Get some. Caution 1 and 2, caution 1 and 2. Caution front straight, caution on the front straight. Go high, go high. All right, we got Deacon out in front, David Coleman right behind him, David Ponder in third, Andrew in fourth, AJ Strickland in fifth, Mike Raines in sixth. Coleman out there with the fast lap of a 6.45. Oh, turns. Easy, they're hung up, they're hung up. Front straight, front straight. Right, that shook things up a little bit. Still got Deacon out in front, David Coleman in second, David Ponder in third, AJ in fourth, Hammond in fifth, Mike Raines in sixth. Hammond still got that fast lap though with that 6.37. Caution on that back straight. Caution 1 and 2, caution 1 and 2. 2 minutes left, 2 minutes left, you heard it there. Oh, caution 3 and 4, caution 3 and 4, go low, go low. Stuffed in the pipe. Got ourselves some mayhem. Deacon out in front and first, David Coleman in second, AJ worked his way up to third, Andrew Hammond in fourth, David Ponder in fifth, and Mike Raines in sixth. There's a barn burner off the jump. He almost made it back onto the track, for God's sake. All right, David Coleman just took first place. Got Deacon right behind him, AJ in third, Andrew Hammond in fourth, David Ponder in fifth, Mike Raines in sixth. One minute left. Caution on the front straight, clear, clear. Caution 3 and 4, caution 3 and 4, go high, go high. All right, we got David Coleman still out in front, Deacon in second, AJ in third, David Ponder in fourth, Andrew Hammond in fifth, Mike Raines in sixth. Well, hold on to it. All right, when you cross the line, the race is over. The race is over. Looking for Andrew Hammond and Mike Raines across the line. The race is over. Finishing line up on that one is going to be David Coleman, Deacon, AJ, Andrew, David Ponder, and Mike Raines. David Coleman out front with a 35.402. Deacon with a 34.401. AJ with a 33.401, Andrew Hammond with a 33.406, David Ponder with a 32.401, and Mike Raines with a 29.404. Hammond holding on to that fast lap with a 6.37. All right, up next, Buggy late model, Buggy late model. Looking for our marshals. Testing on how fast is your feet. Good. Gentlemen, happy with the Marshall situation? Are you gentlemen happy with the Marshall situation? All right, your starting lineup on this one right here is going to be Brian Dean, Casey Bass, Garrett, and Steve Oldland. All right, when you gentlemen are ready, line them up. It's going to be Brian Dean, Casey Bass, Garrett, and Steve. Brian out in front, Casey behind him, Garrett in third, Steve in fourth. Brian laying down the heater, the 5.53. Three minutes left, 3 minutes left. You heard it there. You got Brian Deed out in front with a 44.402. Casey Bass right there behind him with a 43.4 flat. Garrett with a 42.401 and Steve Holden with a 41.4 flat. Brian still holding on to that fastest lap of a 5.53. Casey must have shaved a couple tenths off of that because he just got a 5.536. Two minutes left, 2 minutes left. You got Brian Dean out in front, Casey Bass in second, Garrett in third, Steve in fourth. Brian on a 43.4 flat, Casey on a 42 flat, Garrett on a 42.403, and Steve on a 41.403. In racing, Brian on a 43.401, Casey Bass on a 42.401, Garrett on a 42.403, and Steve on a 41.403. Just under a minute to go. All right, 30 seconds left to go. Brian Dean out in front on a 43.403. Casey Bass right behind him on a 42.402. Garrett in third on a 42.403. And Steve in fourth on a 41.403. Oh, caution turn 3 and 4. Caution 3 and 4. Clear, clear. All right, when you cross that line, you are done. All right, you are finished. Finishing lineup for that one right there is going to be Brian Dean with a 43.403. Garrett in second with a 42.405. Casey in third with a 41.4 flat. And Steve with a 41.403. All right, up next we got Losi Sprint A Main. Waiting on some marshals. All right, turn and burn time in as soon as the marshals are clear the zone. All right, your starting lineup for this right here is going to be Scott, Andrew, Matt, and Steve. And we're off. Have Scott out in front, Andrew in second, Vogel in third, Steve in fourth. Andrew putting down the fast lap of a 6.20 right now, but Scott's still holding on to the first place. Three minutes left. Scott Quintel out in front, Andrew Hammond in second, Matthew Vogel in third, and Steve in fourth. Quintel on a 39.404 pace, Hammond on a 38.404, Vogel on a 37.4 flat, and Steve on a 37.404. Minutes left. Scott's still out in front. Got himself on a 39.405. Andrew right behind him at second with a 38.403. Vogel in third with a 38.404. And Steve back in fourth, the 36.4 flat. Oh, caution on the back straight. Caution on the back straight. How that shakes everything up there. So we got Scott Quintel out in front with a minute left. Matt Vogel in second. Andrew Hammond in third. And Steve in fourth. Quintel on a 38.4 flat. Matt Vogel on a 37.401. Hammond on a 37.405. And Steve on a 37.406. $20 left. You still got Scott out in front. Vogel in second. Hammond in third. Steve in fourth. 10 seconds down on the clock. Scott Quintel with the fastest lap of a 5.96. Out in first. Matt in second. Andrew in third. And Steve in fourth. You cross that line, you are done. Oh, caution on that front straight. Oh. Everybody, you are good to go. Finishing lineup on that one right there is going to be Scott Quintel with a 38.4 flat, Matt Vogel with a 38.406, Andrew Hammond with a 37.403, and Steve with a 37.408. All right, up next is going to be short course late model. All right, turn and burn, get some laps in. All right, gentlemen, when you are ready, line them up. The starting lineup for this one right here is going to be Steve, Coleman, Ponder, Werstein. Let's get some. Steve coming out the gate with a heater of a 5.81 out in first, Coleman in second, Werstein in third, Ponder in fourth. Feeling that old girl. All right, you got Steve out in front with a 42.403, Coleman with a 39.403, Werstein with a 38.401, and Ponder with a 26.408. Oh, up. 2 wheels, 2. All right, 2 minutes left to go. 2 minutes left to go. Steve out in front. David Coleman second. Scott in third. And David Ponder in fourth. Steve holding on to the fast lap with a 5.71. Out there with a 42.404 lap pace. David Coleman right behind him with a 39.405. Scott with a 37.402. And Ponder with a 21.409. Caution 3 and 4. Caution 3 and 4. Happens with the lineup after that. We got Steve Holton out in front, David Coleman second, Scott in third, and David Ponder in fourth. Steve out there with a 44.01 lap pace, Coleman behind him with a 38.404, Scott with a 37.404, and Ponder hold it. All right, 30 seconds to go. Steve out in front, Coleman right behind him, and Scott in third. When you cross that line, you are done. You are done. Finishing line up on that right there is going to be Steve Holden, David Coleman, and Scott. Steve Holden with a 44.03, David Coleman with a 38.404, and Scott with a 37.402. All right, up next, last race of the night. Looking for the Mud Boss 12 turn. All right, your starting lineup for this is going to be Deacon, Mike Rains, Levi, and Daryl. Your gentlemen are ready. If you want to roll them off, it's going to be Deacon, Mike Rains, Levi, and Daryl. And we're off. Caution. Caution 1 and 2. Coming out, throwing down the heater of a 6.89. Out in front, Mike Rains right behind him. Daryl in third, Levi in fourth. Caution 3 and 4. All right, Deacon out in front, Mike Rains in second, Daryl in third, Levi in fourth. I think I lost your transponder there for a second, Levi. 2 minutes left. 2 minutes left. We get Deacon out in front with a fast lap of a 6.58. Mike Raines right behind him on a 34.4 flat pace. And Darrell behind him on a 28.407. And Levi with a 1 minute left. 1 minute left. Deacon out in front. Mike Raines in second. Darrell in third. Levi in fourth. Caution on the front straight. Caution on the front straight. Go low. Go low. Twenty seconds left. 20 seconds left. Deacon out in front. Darrell in. All right, when you cross the line, it is over. It is over. Everybody's done. Everybody's done. Finishing lineup on that right there is going to be Deacon, Mike Raines, and Levi. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and everybody that the live stream. Thank you very much, and tune in for Saturday's oval race, next Thursday's off-road racing.